Last time we were finishing up talking about some editing basics. So next topic is Vertex Tools, and this is in edit mode. We've already looked at some of these. We already looked where you can grab a vertex, you can move it, extrude it, so forth. But there's other items you can do too. So I'm going to start out with the cube, and I'm going to go into edit mode. So I do a tab to go into it, or you can again choose this drop down here and choose edit mode. Just refresh your memory to select. You left mouse click on whatever vertex you want, assuming you're in vertex select mode, which is by default. And if you do a G for grab, you can grab it and move it. Right click cancels whatever action you're attempting to take. To switch to vertex versus edge versus face is these three buttons right up here at the upper left hand corner below window. This first one's vertex, this is the edge, and then this is the face. Okay, so we want the vertex selected. Um, they talk about tools in the vertex menu. You'll see that here's all the tools specific to vertices. They also have all the tools here specific to edges and all the ones here specific to faces. Okay. This vertex merge, it's right here. And you can have it at center, at cursor, collapse by distance. I don't think it'd have much of an effect on this, but let's see. What I did is I selected one with the left mouse button, held on my shift, and selected the other one. So I got two of them selected. Now, if I did a vertex, merge vertices, I didn't think it would do it because we didn't have it but just those two, and that totally redefined it. What it's really meant for is if I have these selected, and if I right mouse click, choose subdivide, right mouse click, choose subdivide. So you got some vertices that really shouldn't be there. It isn't meant to deform your shape, but this kind of clean it up. Now it can deform your shape, as we saw if you do the vertex and there it is, merge vertices at first. You see it does the same thing. They say at first replace the remaining vertex at the location of the first one selected. At last, only available in vertex select mode, replace the remaining vertex at the location of the last one selected. So if I did last, it would collapse them over here. Now let's go ahead and select these. Choose vertex, merge vertices. Let's try it again. At first, you see how it doesn't deform the shape. This is the main area you'd want to use these tools to kind of clean it up a little bit. Get rid of those vertices without changing the original shape. By grabbing that last vertex, that's what's causing it to do that. I expect if you did the at last here, it would deform the shape because this first one would pull that corner over. Well, let's see. Yeah, see, that deforms that corner. Here's the at center. You'll place remaining vertex at the center of the selection. And you see some of these talk about how they're in vertex select mode and some of them are in A mode. don't know what it'll do here. Let's see. I was wondering if you'd do the average between these two middle ones. But your eyes are better than mine. I'll trust you on that. That's what logically you would do. But again, if you don't want to deform your shape, then you don't want to choose those key vertices, because otherwise it'll pull those in. So if I have these three selected, then we should just have one left here, the one in the middle. That we do. Now that's just bizarre. I never have done the cursor one. So the idea is if I have my 3D cursor over here, then collapse these and put the remaining vertex here, which means it'll probably skew my shape if I had to guess. It does. See, I can use these tools, but it takes a real creative mind to figure out, what can you do to get the best design, best shape with minimum amount of work or minimum amount of work. Collapse every island of selected vertices. It will merge on its own medium center. Leave one vertex per island. That's curious. Wondering why I didn't put faces on these. Oops, didn't have that selected for one. Can't subdivide that. Maybe it's work on faces. But even if I have edges, huh? Oh well. Has nothing to do with what I was show. But let's see, merge vertices and collapse all those center ones up in our since we had that selected based upon the median point. Almost made it look like it went down too. Let's see if that's a true statement. I wouldn't have guessed that since we just had top one selected. Most of these you never use. They haven't talked about UVs yet. Um, Auto merge. When the auto merge option is enabled, as soon as a vertex moves closer to another one than the threshold setting, they're automatically merged. And see if that's over here. See it on that side. I've never used auto merge. Oh, here it is. Threshold 0.5. If we grab this, and sure enough, I'm doing a G for grab, moving it within a certain distance of one of those vertices, and it automatically. Huh. Merge by distance. Merge and selected vertices are closer than a specified distance to one another. Vertex merge by distance. Question is, where do you set the distance? There it is. Merge by distance. Now they're cleaned up. Also transformed it a little bit, looks like. Some of these where it says context menu, after you choose the menu option, you'll see something on your screen somewhere that will be specific to that option. Now here's separating rip region. This creates a hole into a mesh by making a copy of the selected vertices and edges to link to the neighbor non-selected vertices so that new edges are borders of the faces on one side and the old ones borders of the faces the other side of the rip. So if I have this one selected, V is the shortcut for that. Try it again. V. See, I think it would snap to that. I think I got this one so screwed up. Let me do a file new. Oops. Cancel. Okay. So I got everything selected. So I'm gonna subdivide, subdivide. Now let me just select that vertex, do a V. There. Yeah, so what it was snapping to this one. And I'm not sure what I had turned on exactly, but that's what was supposed to do. Does that make sense what that does? So, if you want to keep the same edges like this one has, so this vertex here goes to this vertex. With your new one, when you rip it, you want that same vertex to go to that vertex and down here too. And like I said, creates a hole. Rip vertices and fill. Back here, Control C. Back a little more. Put that vertex there. So rip vertices and fill. Okay, so you got that. Let me do an Alt V. Does the same thing except for fills in these faces. What's interesting is if I had a vertex selected here, and I come up here and do a vertex, rip vertices, and fill, my mouse is up here at the top. So I think that makes it a little harder to work with. So in that case, I think keystroke's probably a little bit easier using the shortcut key. Now we're going to talk how you can have all of your transformations being done around a particular point, around like a 3D cursor. So it's not always around the center of the object, but this is by default, I believe, the center of the object. So it's kind of curious. Split. Um, Disconnects that section from the rest of the mesh. Set those forward and see what it does. After I do that, if I did G for grab, move it out, you see how that's now separate from that. But I can still select this other one. It did not create a new object. So you see over here, there's in the scene collection, there's still just one cube. So that's how you can split part of your vertices off. Not going to talk about all of these. Separate is kind of a nice one. We have these. We have this piece right here, and it's under the mesh separate. And you can do it by selection. Now you notice over here in the scene collection, we actually have a cube.001. So these are now two separate objects. If I go back to object mode by pressing my tab, you see I can select just that piece and move it, and it's now independent of the other piece right here. As I indicated, over here, instead of doing vertex, you could have had the edges selected. Do a separate by selection. Now if I select it, that's interesting. I see it. Okay, we go back to object mode. So we separate that piece. Or if you have it by face, which is probably easier. Try it again. Just didn't let you select it over here, doesn't appear like. Go here though, and then select that. Now let me go back into edit, and now I can move it. So again, ways you can separate pieces of your mesh. Usually, what we want to do is go the other direction. You want to pair them together, but there's times when maybe you want to do that. See if I remember how to parent them. There's a specific order I think it has to go in. Let's see, I got this selected. Hold down my shift key and select that one. I obviously don't remember the shortcut. I thought it was P. Control P. Okay, so we try Control P. Set parent to object. Okay. That wasn't it. Select this one. Hold down my shift key. Select that one. Control P. Loop in parents, because I already did the parent. Okay. Yeah, which is this one? Now this selected. Do there. Control P. There it goes. But this one, I must have set to parent. We're going to see when we get to the material, but there's an order in which you have to do it, and I never can remember it. So you select one first, then you select the other one, and select the parent. By doing that, either the first one's the parent or the second one's the parent. But we'll see how we get to documentation. Never really have used this separate by material or even loose parts. Usually I do the selection. Vertex slide. Now that I've really messed this up, let me do a file new and general. Okay, go into edit. Right click on that, subdivide. Right click on that, subdivide. So select that vertex there. Vertex slide will transform a vertex along one of its adjacent edges. Use Shift tool to activate this, or you can do the vertex slide vertices. Now, as I move this, you'll notice that I can, even though my mouse is up here, it still can only move along one of those edges. So that puts it over there. Now, if you compare that to just grabbing it and moving it, you might say, "Well, isn't that the same thing?" Well, no. This can go out here. The shift was it Shift V? Shift V means it can only slide along the actual edge, or down over the vertical edge this way. suppose you might be able to accomplish the same thing if you had this and you did a GY. Now it'll only move along that edge, but that would require your object to be perfectly symmetric, which isn't always the case. Not to mention that, though, so you go further into the next edge. Let's see if there's anything else interesting here. Delete unused. I don't know if I got a vertex there or not. Oh, it's a separate object anyway. Never mind. Okay, there I got these over here. I've never used delete unused before. Assuming I can find out where it's at. Maybe that's using the mesh convex hull. So all faces clean up. Delete loose. There it is. Hmm. I've never cleaned them up like that. Let's see. Make holes, delete edges and faces in the hull are part of the input too. Useful in cases like bridging to delete faces between existing mesh. Okay. Here's make vertex parent. So parent the other selected object to the vertices, edges, face selected is described here. Um, really has more meaning when we're dealing with the objects. We'll look at that later. Let's see. Right enough of that. Now we've already talked about this, the F. That's where you got two items selected. And for life me, there is a way to put a vertex on here. Not seeing it though. Maybe to make copy. I think it's D for duplicate, but no. Shifty. I didn't get a memory. Okay, so there we got some vertices around there. They're completely disconnected. If you hold down your shift key, select two of them, and you do F, it creates the edge between them, like we saw. Select those, do an F. Select all of them there, do an F, and it creates your face. Um, Sometimes it gets confused if you got too many vertices. It doesn't know how to create faces in between them, so it can't be too complex. Let's fix that error. There's an edge slide. Slides one more edges across adjacent faces. We saw that with the vertex. So if I choose the edge, you see there's an edge slide. Of course, I guess it helps if I choose the one I wanted to look at, like this one. Now you might say, how's that again? How's that different than just doing G for grab? If you have that do a G for grab, you can go outside here. The idea on that, this is going to slide along the face. So I can't move it up. It's either going to slide along that face or it'll slide along this face. Notice also I've been doing E for extrude, but there's extrude edges here. If I move up, it gives me that. It's the beauty of using the combination of these. I have this edge selected, this edge selected. If I do F for face, zoom in, I can't see. Do F for face. Got everything selected. Now if I do an F for face, notice it cannot create merged face. This is what I was talking about. If you have too many items selected, it gets confused. Doesn't know how to connect them all together. If I have these, let's see if this confuses it. Edit mode. I'm doing F, and it's not even giving me an error. That's interesting. We go to Object and back. I would have thought it would have attempted something there, but obviously not. There I did an F with those two. Or if it wouldn't work, then at least tell me. But it didn't. So again, if you're not getting the face tool to work like you want, you probably got too much selected. I can't undo anymore. Okay, let's start over. I guess which. Okay. See what other ones are interesting. Go into edit mode. If I have all my edges selected, there's my bevel edges. Now down here, you notice that my vertices are now 96. So by doing the bevel edges, I've created more vertices. So I think I started over. Yeah, I did. Yeah, there's 24 there. Anyway, that's the bevel edges. Kind of a nice tool. I have a hard time figuring out how to make something out of it. I can just play with it and get some clever stuff. But having the end goal in mind, be able to use a tool is a different matter. But there are tutorials on that we may take a look at. You do it based upon loops, um, subdivide. Maybe a little hard to see, but I had selected those three edges, and there's now six edges there. So same thing worked. If I have these selected here, and if I right mouse click, you see there's a subdivide, and there's now six edges down here. In theory, if I have those, do my W, forget that. Okay, right click and subdivide. I don't know which order W came from. Then I would subdivide these. Well, like I saw earlier, for some reason the faces I'm having a little trouble subdividing them. Let me get back. See there, I can subdivide them just fine. I got these. Right click, subdivide. I don't know why. Sometimes it won't let me subdivide on the faces. I'm sure there's probably a specific time when you can actually do that. You see, there's unsubdivide. You go too many, that'll unsubdivide based on what you have selected. That's not an undo. We have our edit undo. That's actually just at any point in time. If you close the program out, go back in, you want to unsubdivide, you do that. Sometimes when you're subdividing, you go a little bit overboard. I currently got 24,578 vertices, which is too many. And mosquito. Unsubdivide there. It's curious it isn't in the faces. Unsubdivide and so forth. Of course, it helps to have them all selected. Let's see if there's anything else. This is not a modeling class, so I'm not gonna. That's why I'm not sitting there going over every little feature. I'm trying to pick ones I think you might find beneficial. Face tools. We already talked about the fill, or the creating a face with F. No, fill is we'll create triangular faces from a selected group. Okay, I got those selected. If I do F, it creates that. I do a Control Z, and if I do an Alt F, right here for class.
Oh, no, I gotta ask you something.
Oh, I'm in class right now.
I'm sorry.
But now if I do Alt F, this will create our triangles. Again, we talked about there's times where we want triangles. There's times where you'd want the quadrangles, I think is they called them, like squares. Okay. Keep those selected just in case. Beautify faces. I never have used that. Works only on selected existing faces if rearrange selected triangles to obtain more balanced ones. So I guess if you got horrible looking triangles like that, it'll give you ones that look like this, which probably increase performance or in some form, because no matter what your faces look like here, if you go back to object mode, you don't see the triangles. Now, if you were doing the coloring, then the beautified faces would probably be useful for that. But for the actual object itself, you don't normally see that. Let's see, solidify, take selection of faces, solidifies them by extruding them uniformly to give a volume to a non-manifold surface. Knife, let's see, intersections in the geometry. Okay, so almost select everything and choose the intersect tool here. No intersections found. I thought that would cut intersections in geometry. It's a bit like Boolean tool, but does not calculate interior faces or split along intersections, leaving new edges selected. I thought since these intersected here, well, the faces don't intersect, do they? That's vertices, the edges. Okay, never mind. Um, rotate edges. Rotate and reverse. I can never be very successful at rotating edges. You get anything meaningful. Rotate edge clockwise. Grab this one. Rotate it counterclockwise. I say I have trouble getting anything meaningful out of it, but it did take this vertical edge here and rotated it counterclockwise. In the process, it moved its position too. If that could be used to create some kind of effect here. Huh. Doesn't have a shortcut key for it. I know, so I went to Edge here. It had the C underlined, almost like that's the shortcut. But maybe you have to Alt E C. Alt E. No, I don't know. Takes somebody with a pretty creative mind to see what you can do with these tools. Normals, I didn't want to really talk about here. We'll eventually get to those. It says flip, recalculate outside, set from faces, rotate, so forth. Just briefly, what normals is when you're creating hair. Yeah, let's see if I can find out where they put that tool at. Bouncing ball. It's no longer a bouncing ball. It's like a moon circulating around. And they took hair away from here. Huh. But anyway, when you're growing hair, let's see where they moved hair to. It's that bothers me. Under 2.8 here. Looks like they've redone hair. Disney's paper for Zootopia. Particle system emission. So particle system. hair. Random. Where did I move random to? Notice how the hair is coming out straight. There's a place where you can choose a random, so it doesn't come out that. Oh, seed. You got to set that. And hair length. 3, 2. And let me choose structure. That's interesting. There. Obviously not the right random. No, you get the idea anyway. The hair is coming out instead of growing inside the cube, and that's what the normals is used for. If you come over here and you start playing with the mesh normals flip, that's where you have them go inside, based on whatever you have selected. So if you've created hair and they're going the wrong direction, that's how you flip it. Oh, yeah. So you had a 3D printer? Oh, see, I'm trying to remember where you sculpt the hair at, but I don't think I'm in the right place. Because it doesn't let me change anything there. There's a barber option. Let's see. Under 2.8. Where is it? Style? No, that's not what I wanted. Brush cut. Create a hair particle, give it initial velocity, create a simulation, check the hair dynamics. Bake, I don't want to bake it. Takes a while. Particle edit mode. With buttons you can choose the type of cone. There it is. Huh, I don't know. I have to play that before we get to it. Now, you may look at that and say, well, that's not very much hair. It only shows you a certain percent on the screen. Because if it showed you all of it, then it would just slow the machine down to the point where it wasn't even feasible. Um, with the hair, you can have children. And so each hair can have its own set of children, which then multiplies the density. But I digress. Anyway, normals, we're going to look. Yeah. Yeah. And it also, you can get it based upon gravity and so forth. So it'll be a little bit more natural. We're going to look at normals a lot more when we actually animate that. But that's all we really need to know at this point. UV, I don't want to take a look at yet. One of the purpose for UV, where am I at? Transformations, duplicating. There it goes. Blender, UV. I'm very good at unwrapping. So when we get to that point, I'll cherry pick a project that I can actually do correctly. Um, it's kind of like you're making cuts along your mesh, and you're doing that so you can spread it out flat. So then you can take it over to paint, and you can paint the individual parts of the mesh. And this is probably like one I'll do where they tell me where to cut it at. If you cut it in the wrong place, it will not come out looking good. And then after you get done cutting it, then you'll get something perhaps like this. And so when you take this over to paint, you can individually paint. You can drop a image on this. So there's a lot of different options. And this is what's exported. This is a TGA image, and this is where then you can apply realistic images onto it, and then you're going to put it back on the mesh. So it's kind of like you peel off the face, paint it, put it back on the face, and wrap it around it. Now, if you don't do it correctly, it doesn't come off where you can know what's the eyes, what's the face, what's the ear. All it is just a bunch of random geometry. And you see that what they did here. They took it over to a paint package. And then when they put it back on Suzanne, it actually looks fairly decent for a 3D model. And then your final render look like that. Really ugly textures. It's pretty good compared to what I can do. Like I say, we're going to explore that more later on. but I'll do that with like a tutorial. So I'll either have PDF or a video that I'll show it because making the cuts in the wrong places doesn't really accomplish anything. A cube is sometimes challenging. Knowing how to perform a cut on a cube to unwrap it. You see there's a UV option here. Um, let's see, mark the seam there. So those are marked. Oh, it's not going to unwrap correctly. Cuts there. I need a new window. Hmm. Oh, UV editing. There it is. Oh, I didn't cut it correctly. See how the original cube, I made it the cuts and now it's laid out flat. If on the other hand, I just select everything, and mark the seam, do an unwrap. Can I tell where the original faces were? See, I can I? So if I knew I wanted the Pink Panther to be on this side, I would not know which side is that. Now you can get around that. If you click that, you know it's this one here. You click this one, you know it's that one there. But if you got anything complex, that fails when working with it. So like for example, if I had the monkey, mesh Suzanne, monkey, going to edit. All of them are selected. If I do a UV mark seam, everything's selected. UV unwrap. This would be impossible to work with. You take that over to paint.net or whatever package, you wouldn't know which was the head, which was the ear, and so it's complete garbage. If you make the appropriate cuts, and I cannot visualize these for anything, but if you make the appropriate cuts, it makes it really easy. Like here, you have to cut around the face like this. You have this cut going across the top of the head and going down here, and it's coming back around and then coming to the bottom of the original face. I don't know if this indicates you should be right in the middle here. That might just, I don't know about that. And then the ears. And by doing those cuts in those places, then you get your shape here. I think these were the ears were. When I say I don't know about that line coming, it looks like down the middle. I don't see a cut here in the middle. that make sense of what UV general ideas? And see, you got different options here. You can create a new image. You can actually even draw on this. I think there's very primitive tools. I may be wrong. Let's see if there's any kind of editing. I thought for sure there was a very primitive tool for drawing. You never use it anyway. They may have took it out or moved it somewhere. Okay. Like I say, you can come over here and you can click the face and see which ones they apply to. So whenever you see a UV unwrap tool, that's always what it applies to. Oh, it's just 920. Okay, let me go ahead and say that. No assignment for today since I ran shorter time.